Just before we get going, though, I'd like to just take a couple of moments and recognize and perhaps observe a quick minute of silence and recognize the tragedy that has befallen the hockey community in Western Canada with the Humboldt Broncos. It's a tragedy that has struck into the Edmonton area, especially in the St. Albert area. So I would just like to take a minute and have a quick moment of silence for the departed souls and pray for a quick recovery for those that were injured and are still suffering. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Are there any additions to the agenda from admin? No? Are there any additions to the agenda from council? Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Hint. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. All right, first item on the agenda tonight is our consent agenda. We have two items. Item 4A, I move that council consent to approve the following agenda items without debate. Item 4A, the regular council meeting March 27, 2018 minutes. And item 9A, that the council accept Councillor Barnhart's committee report as information. Is there any discussion on the motion? No? Call the vote. Carried. All right, so first item on the agenda this evening is item 5A, public hearing. We have a public hearing on bylaw 90318. So at this point, I will declare the public hearing open at 7:03 p.m. And I'd like to ask the Supervisor of Legislative Services to speak.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of council and the public. The purpose of bylaw 903-18 is to repeal and replace bylaw 442-95 Municipal Planning Commission with bylaw 903-18 Subdivision Authority bylaw. Notice of the public hearing was given in writing to all active developers in Beaumont. The public hearing notice was advertised in the local newspaper on March 30th and April 6, 2018. Written submissions received are included in the public hearing agenda package. Legislative Services received one late submission that I will read into the record. Regarding the Town of Beaumont Subdivision Authority, dear Mayor and Council, on behalf of the Urban Development Institute, Edmonton Region, Beaumont Committee, we would like to provide support to replace the Municipal Planning Commission bylaw 442-95 with bylaw 903-18 Subdivision Authority bylaw. Specifically, UDI-ER supports the rationale to help streamline the subdivision process, improve timelines, and provide consistency and certainty for the land development industry doing business in Beaumont. Further, this change reduces both council and administration's overall resource input, allowing these resources to be effectively utilized in other areas as needed. The UDI Beaumont Committee appreciates the ongoing relationship and opportunities to collaborate with the town of Beaumont. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. Kindest regards, Shane Gearin, the chair of the Beaumont Community with the EDI Edmonton Region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Raymond to come down and present on behalf of planning.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just like to introduce Alicia Kwasny, who is our planning technician who will be introducing this bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of Council. We are here tonight to hold a public hearing for bylaw 903-18 Subdivision Authority Bylaw, which can be found on page 7 of your agenda package. The Municipal Government Act requires that a municipality must establish a subdivision authority, and it must be approved by Council with a bylaw. A subdivision authority exercises subdivision powers and duties on behalf of the municipality. This authority makes decisions on subdivision applications. Examples of these are newly created lots, municipal reserves, school reserve, and public roadways. Our current bylaw was approved back in 1995. Beaumont established at this time a subdivision authority called the Municipal Planning Commission. This bylaw, it's outdated with titles, departments, and duties. Since that time, Beaumont has doubled in population, and administration has restructured quite a bit since then. The number of subdivisions have also increased. With the newly annexed lands, that provides more development area, and that will require more subdivision applications being put forward. This bylaw supports a more efficient and effective solution to the challenges that we're facing here today. Many of these challenges include scheduling conflicts between the commission members, the applicant, and administration. We hope that this streamlines the subdivision process by reducing repetitive administration work, such as rescheduling meetings when members cannot attend. And we hope that this builds stronger relationships within the developers and the community. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you a brief example. We had a subdivision application come in with fees. We accept that application. That starts the clock for a 60-day period where the subdivision authority has to make a decision. What ended up happening was we didn't have available time between the commission members to schedule a meeting, and so what ended up happening was an extension had to be given with an agreement through the town and the applicant, and I mean that was a loss of time for the developer, and it was just we couldn't schedule a meeting and meet the quorum. Finally, the proposed bylaw establishes an authority with the requisite technical training and knowledge of relevant subdivision considerations. Bylaw 903-18 proposes to designate this to the Chief Administrative Officer as a subdivision authority. These powers can further be delegated down to an employee within the municipality. The intention is to delegate this subdivision authority power to the Director of Integrated Growth. This position will possess relative technical knowledge and is required to be a registered professional planner or a professional engineer in Alberta. The effect of delegating to the Director of Integrated Growth will result in greater efficiency for both the applicant and for municipal resources. Surrounding municipalities that have established administrative staff as a subdivision authority are the following: Edmonton, City of Leduc, Spruce Grove, Fort Saskatchewan, and St. Albert. You can find this on attachment 3. The subdivision meetings will be closed. The subdivision meetings we are proposing will be closed to the public. This is permitted through the Municipal Government Act. If this bylaw is approved, administration understands that the current process is going to change. So the way that the meetings are currently set up, it's open to the public. And so with these meetings being closed to the public, we will revisit our process, our current administrative process, and we will add additional meetings if needed between the developer or any party that has any issues with the subdivision application. Now that Beaumont has restructured its planning hierarchy and we've eliminated outline plans, we're only using, and we're hopes to move forward with area structure plans. The opportunity for the public to get involved will be at the area structure plan level and also the redistricting level. All comments, subdivision applications will have to be, they have to be in conformance with the area structure plans that are set in place. The circulation period and referrals will not change. We still will circulate to internal staff, external referrals, council, the applicant, and any adjacent landowners. All comments are always provided with an administration's along with administration's response and the recommendation within the subdivision authority report. The report agenda can be found on the website prior to the meeting, and then the minutes will be posted on the website after the meeting. Another area where we're hoping to change with this bylaw is minor amendments. So currently, if an applicant wants to add additional lot to a subdivision application that's already been approved, they have to go back to the Municipal Planning Commission and get that approval. So not only do we have to reschedule a meeting, we also have to recirculate the application. That 60-day period starts again, and then and it proceeds. And we're hoping that with this bylaw, what we have proposed, we will accept minor modifications that have to meet the criteria that's listed within the bylaw. We hope that this improves efficiency with processing and reduce circulation, redundancy, and administrative delays. All active developers in Beaumont were informed of the bylaw and public hearing on March 28, 2018. A group of developers in Beaumont, also known as Urban Development Institute, UDI, submitted a letter in favor of replacing the current Municipal Planning Commission bylaw with the Subdivision Authority bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all the presentation and the information. Are there any questions of council for the presenters? Oh, thank you very much. That was easy. Is there any member of the audience wishing to speak in favor of the proposed bylaw? No. Is there any member in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the proposed bylaw?
Can I get a clarification?
Please come up, state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Paul Pritchard. I just want a clarification because I listened to what was said. I've seen it in the paper and that. I did go online and look at stuff. So in the short summary, are you saying basically this is going to allow minor changes to be incorporated with the bylaw that you're proposing to change?
Ms. Raymond, can I get you to field that one?
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, can I ask for just some clarification to that question?
Feel free.
Can I address worship then? Or you?
Yeah, just
Okay.
keep it simple.
The question is, as a taxpayer in that, you're talking about efficiency in that. But my question to you is that it sounds like, from what I hear, is you want the ability to make changes to subdivision approval without going through the whole process. And adding the lots on subdivision seems like a pretty good change to make. So as a taxpayer, would I have the opportunity to review that change? Or is that something that's just going to get pushed through?
Yeah. Thank you, Your Worship. So what we're proposing to do is this will fall under the minor amendment, creating or reducing by one lot. If somebody was to add 2 more lots, then they have to go back to the subdivision authority and get approval. What we're seeing here is there have been several applications that have been put forward where one additional lot is created or reduced, and the reason for that sometimes is for road alignment, and there's other areas where this does occur, but from our planning perspective, for administrative perspective, we don't see that one lot will affect the rest of the subdivision or neighborhood drastically. If it does, then we will take it upon ourselves to recirculate that subdivision application by a case by case. But there is an option within the proposed bylaw that they are able to have that minor amendment.
Sorry, just to clarify that just for 1 second there, there's also a list of criteria that it does still have to meet. It can't impact the servicing and a variety of other things as well. So if that additional lot did have some of those adverse effects, then that would have to be re-examined.
Great. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Are there any other people wishing to speak to this bylaw? All right. Are there any final questions from council? No? Ms. Raymond, Ms. Kwasny, would you like to make a concluding remark? All right. Declare the public hearing closed. Next up on the agenda item is item 6A. We have two registered presentations tonight. The first one will be on the Aquafit Center Terms and Conditions by Mr. Paul Pritchard. Please, sir. Just as a quick reminder to everybody presenting tonight, please come down, select a mic, sign in, and register presentations. We have a time limit of 10 minutes for.
Thank you, Your Worship. Do I address you, Your Worship, when I'm speaking?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Your Worship, my name is Paul Pritchard. This is my son, Grant Pritchard. We've been members. Actually, we were the second family to buy a yearly membership when the pool first opened. And we've been members ever since, every year. Due to a lot of operational changes, actually this year we won't be a member because of the timelines that change. We've had to break our tradition of being a yearly membership due to some of the changes. Our discussion here has to do over the fact that my son and I had been going to another gym in Beaumont, and as things got tight for money, we decided to try to reduce our expenses. And before we left that gym, that was Snap Fitness was the one that we were attending when my son was, I believe, 12. And we had no issues at that gym. We approached the town of Beaumont when we went to renew our membership to see if there was any possibility that at 13 he could go upstairs with a parent's direct supervision. Now, we were told in the presence of my wife, myself, my son, on repeated occasions that that would be acceptable, that an email was circulated by a manager that worked at the facilities to the front staff at the facility. So based on that, we renewed our memberships. I went into details about that in the thing that I submitted. Since then, what happened was the town decided for some reason, and there's other reasons why you rewrote your terms and conditions, and there's actually on your website that talks about your bylaw. And you guys actually have a document on there that you guys can refer to that actually mentions a youth hourly rate for internal personal training, right? And which is fine, really odd, because he's not allowed to go upstairs, but in your new bylaw that you guys wrote, there's an hourly rate for him to actually go and use a personal trainer, which seems kind of conflicting in statement. The other thing that we found kind of odd was the user rates from 13 to 17. And when he's 12, there's almost $100 difference on a yearly membership. And I don't quite understand how somebody that's 13 should pay the same as someone that's 14, but not be able to use the facilities equally. And I think that's quite odd that the rates are set that way. This information is on your website, and I wanted to bring that to your attention. Our point is I feel that this is being harassing in nature. The terms and conditions, we were forced under duress to sign them. And if we did not sign the terms and conditions, we were flatly told we would not be allowed to go in the facility. However, if we actually bought a pass, we could go in the facility without signing the terms and conditions. And we actually did that. And I actually spent $19 to actually go into the pool and not have to sign the terms and conditions because I couldn't read them because I didn't have my glasses. And the staff at the time, I actually did contact the town administrator. I did contact, and he gave me the name of a person that oversaw Aquafit, and that person contacted me. We had a discussion about that interaction. And as someone that deals with customers, I really felt that that was a poor service on how that was dealt with. Now, that person had gone back and was supposed to come back to me. We had a discussion, and that's where it stopped. So from their point in, we continued to use the facilities. When we were forced to sign the document, it had the age change on the revised terms and conditions that were supposed to put us in line of other facilities in the region, which used to be said on the website. However, it doesn't really put us in line with other facilities. I spoke to the person, the manager in charge of the gym, and she discussed about fairness. She talked about monitored and non-monitored facilities. I contacted the city of Leduc. I spoke to people working at that facility, and there's really is not really a true monitor. They have a fob, swipe in, you go upstairs, and there's staff there, and it's semi-monitored, not completely monitored. So the basis of the rule in writing that's posted says 14, but we were being told verbally 13 repeatedly. And when the terms and conditions came into effect on Family Day, that's when my son was refused entry to go upstairs. Because the staff knew my son was not 14 because we had the interaction. So I kind of feel that because we were honest up front a year ago with this, and we continue to ask and reaffirm that yes, he could still go upstairs, we bought a membership. Now, from now till October, he can't go upstairs. So now I have to look and pay for another gym for another 7 months roughly for him to go use a facility. Now, I did ask the manager of the facility, I said, my understanding there's a tort law that talks about this, and tort law says that if you make me sign an agreement and then you allow me verbally to change the agreement and continue to change it, which he went upstairs at least 26 times, which says that basically verbally you said, no, you can go upstairs if you do this. We did, we followed everything that we were told to do. You broke the terms and conditions, and there's a tort law that I was trying to find before I came here tonight that talks about that. If you make someone sign a contract that you wrote and make me sign it and say this is the way it's going to be and you don't follow it, basically you voided your terms and conditions. And then all of a sudden, once 6 months go by, when those terms and conditions, I think, legally came into effect on Family Day, that's when you decided to enforce it. So we take exception to that. I've asked about younger people being upstairs, and the comment I get is related to fear, that something's going to happen, somebody's going to get hurt, they're not behaving. I hear this statement. Well, my son was up there for 6 months. There was no incidents. He was at Snap Fitness. There was no incidents. So my question about the policy, I think it's outdated to start with. There's numerous gyms that have better facilities. I don't want to go to another city with my son to work out. The plan was him and I as a family event on Family Day to go there. And that's where we struggle with this. And we spoke to the gym manager, and I'm aware of another family that were put in the same situation, and they took their money back from their gym membership, or from their membership that they had bought. So that's kind of where we're at with your terms and conditions. I asked about him being grandfathered under direct supervision. No. The manager of the facility insisted that they had to follow these rules. And at the same time, right now, there is not a proper way of identifying the age of a person when they go into the gym. It's at the discretion of the staff when they go upstairs. But because they recognize my son and myself, that individual that works at the Aquafit recognized that he was not 13 and automatically denied him access. But when I was upstairs working out, there was someone way smaller, way younger, that was upstairs. And when I went back downstairs, they went and spoke to the parent, and the person had to leave. And I asked about it. Well, we do our best. So if we don't have an adequate way of determining the age of somebody going upstairs, then I don't think that it's a fair rule. I feel that my son's kind of being targeted in this case because we were honest and upfront from the minute we signed our membership. So that's the issue or the terms and conditions. I don't come to council a lot. I'm hoping that the council members will comment on this. I want to have some input from them, Your Worship. And that's currently where we're at right now. We can't work out upstairs. It broke a routine that we're doing, and it's very annoying. And the other thing is there's a reciprocal agreement with Leduc when the pool's closed and the gym's closed. So he can go to Leduc, and then he goes there and he can use their facility. I'm not asking, in my notes it was very specific, I'm not asking for him to do weights or free weights. I have my own opinion on that. We're strictly doing cardio and core training. That's it. That's what we were doing there. He is staying from any of the workout programs not to put anyone in liability upstairs as a trainer. And that's what we did. And there was no complaints made against our family or my son when he was upstairs. So I wanted my son to just kind of talk about what he thought about what happened to him on Family Day. So Grant, if you don't mind. Just tell him what happened.
So on Family Day, we chose that we wanted to go to the gym, so I grabbed all my stuff when we got there. The person asked how old what I was, and I said that I was 13. And she said that I'm not allowed up there because of the new law that got into effect. And I've been going up there, and I haven't done any free weights or anything. I've just been right beside my dad for the whole time, doing cardio and that.
Thanks, Grant. So anyways, I'm hoping that there can be a solution to this. If the town wants to enforce the rule now, after all this has gone on and all the discussions and disagreements I've had with the Aquafit, then I would at least ask that they would return his year membership that he paid so we can take that money and he can go over to one of the private gyms in Beaumont and work out till October. And I would also ask town to review the guidelines on when he does turn 14 because I don't see anything that I read about any orientations for him going in there or any guidelines whatsoever. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Sorry. Thank you very much. Is there someone from the administration? Mr. Hiltz?
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. Further presentation, and in light of some of the things that have happened there with a few of the different families, is we are starting a youth orientation, weight room orientation program starting the beginning of May, and that'll be for 12 and 13-year-olds. And they would get a card that they would carry with them that would give them access to the weight room, and that would be on their own time or with their parent supervision, either one. And that is based on the Leduc and the City of Edmonton's programs.
Thank you, Mr. Hiltz. So it sounds like they are making some steps towards improving the system. I'm sorry that the situation happened to you. Unfortunately, I'm not really up to speed currently on the exact ins and outs of the Aquafit bylaws and policies because I don't use that facility. My kids are too young. I don't quite know where to go with this tonight. I think I'm going to turn it back over to the CAO to gather some information and see what we can do. See if the policies are online or not. CAO? Whoop, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. That would be my suggestion, is that leave it with administration, and we'll do some further research on it and contact the presenter as well.
Hey, is that sufficient tonight?
So just so I understand, Your Worship, they're saying in May that they're going to be issuing cards to 12 and 13-year-olds to go upstairs and use full weights?
Mr. Hiltz?
Your Worship, it'll be after, they'll have to go through a weight room orientation, and that'll be with a certified trainer, and it'll be set up a program very similar to Leduc's in the City of Edmonton's. They will not be able to go up there without that orientation and without having that card access on them.
So, Your Worship, is there any way from now till then, until they actually have this up and running, that my son be credited for his time that we bought his yearly membership, so he can at least go over to one of the private gyms?
Mr. Hiltz?
Thank you, Worship. We can probably do a little bit better than that. We have allowed another family with a child who is below 14 to have access under parental supervision to be in the weight room until that program comes into place. So for the next month.
That would be great, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, and Mr. Hiltz will be in touch.
Great. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for coming in tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next item up on our agenda is a presentation from the Tour de l'Alberta, Mr. Alan Jacobson.
Closer to all of you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of Council. It's my pleasure to be back here with you again. This is our third year, the Tour de l'Alberta, qui va passer ici à Beaumont. It's the largest non-competitive single-day cycling event in Western Canada. It's our 24th year and our third year, as I mentioned, in Beaumont. It started way back when by Don Petty. He went out for a ride on the last day of the Tour de France. It always takes place on the last day of the Tour de France. He went out. He was a solo rider at the time. The next year, he had about 20 of his friends. He cajoled them into riding. At the 20th anniversary in 2014, we had 1,400 cyclists. It was deemed to move to another location, and so we moved it to Beaumont. This is our third year, and we had about the last couple of years 900 riders per year. So what we're doing is bringing 900 to 1,000 cyclists, vendors, suppliers. We're trying to go as local as possible with everything, and it's really a celebration, as I mentioned here, a celebration of community, cycling, and culture. And it's presented by the Tour de l'Alberta, Revolution Cycle, and with the Edmonton Bicycle and Touring Club. So on behalf of Anne-Marie Adachi, the president of the Edmonton Bicycle Touring Club, EBTC, Charles World, past president, and Michael McFinn from Revolution Cycle. Neither of them, could not be here this evening because of illness and prior commitments. I thank you for the opportunity. I see some familiar faces here, and I know that one of the councillors is also an Edmonton Bike Touring Club member. So we're very pleased to have wonderful support the last 2 years, and we're anticipating the same level of support from town staff. They've been wonderful. I met with RCMP and CPO today to provide the levels of support and engagement and traffic control that we've had in the past. Everyone's on board. This ride, let me see if I can. There we are. We use the Ken Nickel Regional Rec Center as our hub of operation. We've requested from Friday to Monday. The first year we just requested Saturday. The event is on Sunday, July 29th. We found that having that extra day gives us more time for our supply chains and just to get more comfortable. What we do is the ride is, there are 3 components to it. There's a 160-kilometer ride, a 100-kilometer, and a 50. We have rest stations, and all of those rest stations are supplied with water and fruit and vegetables and supplies like that. And this is the hub. Everything is delivered here and leaves from here. So having that extra day made a big difference to us. The day of, anyways, you see there we have the Expo and Rider Prep. The little red slash to the left is the actual start finish, the arch, Tour de l'Alberta. And again, it's based on the Tour de France. It's really exciting like that. And then we leave out and we go straight up 50th Street to 510. And what we have for the 160-kilometer ride, we have about 200 participants. They're obviously elite, pretty hardcore. For the 100-kilometer ride, we average about 400 participants. And for the 50-kilometer ride, we average about 200 to 300. So what we do is we use the facility. We have our registration here. As I get great support from town staff. On the day of, we're there from 5 a.m. The first ride starts at 8 till about 8 p.m. So it's a long day for everyone, and we love the facilities. They're excellent for our needs. We use the arena as our end-of-ride meal. So what the riders get for their really good price, we're probably the best supported ride for the price point in Western Canada. And I'll mention to everyone, $85 early bird, and I think it's about $100 after that. We have support vehicles, about 14 or 15 motorcyclists that ride with you. We have 8 or 9 trucks from Revolution Cycle and others that ride as well. We have Northern Alberta Radio Control Club provides radio control not only at the hub at the Ken Nickel, but at every rest station. So we're in constant communication with all of these folks because safety is our #1 priority. We have rest stations, as I mentioned, 4 of them, maybe 5 this year. They're all supplied. And at the end of ride meal, we tried to go local, but no one could quite supply our needs. So we go pretty local. A1, Bill out of Camrose. They do the Big Valley Jamboree. They're going to be our caterer of choice for the 3rd year. 3 kinds of lasagnas, phenomenal salads for a great price point. So it's excellent, and everyone raves about it. Just to give you an idea, the 50-kilometer ride presented by Forest Heights, they were our main sponsor last year. I didn't get a chance to change the placard, but we hope they're back on for this year. So they're getting some free publicity this year anyways. So the 50-kilometer, we start and stop at the Ken Nickel. They whip down through 510. Northern Bear, the Villas on the Green, the condominium area there, is our rest stop for them. It's a 1 rest stop, and they go back. Last year we had Crepe and Shake. Carrie provided wonderful little crepes for us there, and they get watermelon and water and banana and some snacks at every rest station. We wanted to go right on the golf course, but we didn't allow that, so we're going to the Villas on the Green. It's been our stop now for 3 years, and we've got great response. I go out about 2 months before and meet with as many condo members as I can. I give them letters to tell them what's happening. The first year, of course, they had no idea. This is the 3rd year. They're really getting a lot of buy-in. I asked them to come out, support the riders. It's on a Sunday, so that's that opportunity. Here's the 100-kilometer ride for those of you who are a little more adventurous. It's, again, same start and stop. They stop at the rest stop, Villas on the Green, and then they go down and they go through that area and they go to Miquelon Lake. We've got great support from Alberta Parks. They love this event. They're providing as much support as possible. This ride, we get about 300 to 400, as I mentioned, up to 500, I expect, for the 25th anniversary. Any of the major crossings, like Highway 21 and 14 and all of that, 21, we have not only COP, Citizens on Patrol from here. I hope they're engaged again this year. We have Edmonton Police recruits. Those young gentlemen and ladies, we had 15 of them last year. So we send them out, and we have support with, we go through counties of Leduc, of Camrose, and Strathcona, and so we have support from all RCMP and CPOs from there as well. So that's a great ride. And at the Miquelon, they have sandwiches, they have tourtières. C'est vraiment une chose francophone, ça. And it's a wonderful, wonderful celebration. For the 100 kilometers, they can take up to 5 or 6 or 7 hours. It's really a nice, relaxed, fun event for everyone there. And then we have our 160-kilometer route, which is really, last year, I believe, or the first year we did it here, Andrew Ference, I think we all recall who he was, and he started off, he led the 160-kilometer team or group, his team, and they did it in a little over 4 hours. So they're beasts. And we had to stop, and these are for the elite athletes. We had to stop at the Half Moon Lake, but they had some management issues last year. So we're going to put something up by the Fast Gas on the way to Tofield. Tofield is one of our stops there. We've got great buy-in with Mayor and Council there, and they're providing some of their councils as volunteers for the event. And then that route goes back through. They join us at Miquelon, and then Roley View again for our 3rd year, and then back up the hill which is a real challenge for everyone up the steep hill all the way back. And so it's a wonderful, wonderful event. We're glad to invite everyone to celebrate the community, celebrate the culture, la francophonie ici à Beaumont, and also just enjoy this wonderful, wonderful landscape that we have. We've got beautiful, hummock and moraine, beautiful vistas. There's some wide open areas. There's also some lovely rolling touring areas. So there's always something to engage the riders. It's not a flat square, with flat prairie scenes. So it's beautiful. So those are some of the that's an idea of what we turned the parking lot into, a real celebration. We have our sponsors set up tents. We have hundreds and hundreds of riders. And that's an idea of what goes on. They come from a lot of the capital region. We also have a group from Calgary called the Old Spokes. I think you have to be 65 as the youngest member. And we had a group from Saskatchewan. A bunch of ladies joined us. They were the Sprocket Witches. So we have tie-in from across Alberta, across Western Canada. A couple of international guests. If they happen to be in the area, they drop in. So that's always really valuable. Again, just another idea of what's going on here. Oops. And that's what it looks like riding through our beautiful prairie landscapes at this time of year. Again, that's another just beautiful shot of that. That's, that little green area in front of the thing. We call that our chill zone. So we have this kind of thing. We have just great opportunities for everyone to come out and relax and enjoy and celebrate with us and celebrate Beaumont. We're bringing 1,000 people. We're bringing new sponsors, new folks. I try to go to all the businesses, get as many draw prizes as I can, if not sponsorship, to bring people back to the community after the event, to come and celebrate Beaumont for all of the wonderful, wonderful raison d'être qu'on a ici. And that's our small presentation. We're very, very pleased to be here in Beaumont, encore une fois cette année, with the great support. And like I said, the first year the businesses looked at me like, huh? What's this? Last year there was more engagement. This year I think we're going to get a lot more engagement. And we're trying to go as local as possible. I'd like to use some of the Embroidered Me and those kinds of people and all the businesses we can to join us in this celebration, because we want to grow it here and provide as many opportunities for the community groups. I'm talking to all of them to get on board and volunteer with us to promote their community groups. And basically it's a promotion of the town and the area to make it a place that people want to come to, maybe relocate, maybe move here, those kinds of things. But celebrate la bicyclette, la culture, et le cyclisme et Beaumont. So I have, before I finish, I have a little presentation or some gifts for Mayor and Council from last year. This was our poster design, hand-drawn by one of the technicians at Revolution Cycle. And also I'd like to give you this. They fit quite tightly, so you'll have to share at some point. It's our t-shirt. We design a new one every single year. And they're really nice. They're Segoy, they're a Japanese maker. They do fit snug. So anyways, I will present this to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Give this to you. If there's any, I don't know how my time is right now, but if there's any questions or I can entertain any thoughts or ideas or.
No, your time's good. Really appreciate you coming in tonight. This is an exciting event that I'm really proud to have in our town, and I'm looking forward to it again this year. But are there any questions from council? Councilors? Councilor Moncalf-Spain.
How we can.
My technology is not working well tonight. Anyway, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation.
Of course.
You're always a very passionate speaker. I enjoy listening to you.
Thank you.
Question. Have you thought about, so there are some long distances in there, have you thought about something to get maybe more of the kids involved? I remember I look out over 510 and I remember seeing some kids and just ripping by on all their bikes and all that sort of stuff. So has there been some thinking around maybe a 1 kilometre, 2 kilometre ride to get the kids involved?
Absolutely. What we did the first year, we do have a family ride component of it. We're still discussing how that's going to work. We came to the parade. We're going to join the parade again this year, and we couldn't believe how many kids were jumping out of the way of our cyclists. There's thousands of kids here. The first year we had the family ride, and what we do is we go up. I didn't present it here because we're not sure we're going to do that yet, but with this impetus, I certainly can imagine we could. We go up in front of Town Hall here, and then we go up Colonial Park, all the way out 510 on that major paved sidewalk area. We have a few stations and we come back, and it's about 5 kilometers. What we found the first year is we had a whole bunch of folks there, and I said, hey, and I'm the MC for the event. I said, how many folks are from Beaumont? Oh, how many from Edmonton? And I thought, oh my goodness. So last year we tried the same thing, and we had about 25 kids come out. and families. So we're in a quandary, and this is where we need your help and assistance with this. I'm going to the schools, I'm meeting with the youth people in that, and just how can we engage that component of it? Because it's the idea with all of this. I'd like to do a bike rodeo. I mentioned that to RCMP and CPO. The whole idea about the Edmonton Bike Touring Club and the Edmonton Bicycle Club and that is that we're trying to develop riders for all the right reasons, healthy, active lifestyle, healthy living, but we're also trying to get kids to learn how to ride safely from the get-go. You know, at this ride we had last year, we had a couple of stations with some safety information. We'd like to do that again this year, but we're right now in the middle of saying, geez, I don't know if we should for 25 kids. You know, and so this is but that's an excellent point that we're thinking about. It's all about developing people who become lifelong riders. And if we can get them young and early enough, and there are so many kids in this town, we'd love to do that. So let's discuss that further and see how we can develop that this year, because we were a little surprised at the lack of engagement or the lack of turnout from the families last year, because literally when we went, well, you know, the parade, there's thousands of kids running around. Well, mostly they're on the sidewalks. So that's a great point. We'd love to do that, but we're just wondering how to get that piece going this year a little better. So if we can have any ideas about that, I'd certainly appreciate it.
You bet.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Hendricks.
Your Worship, thank you, and certainly you've been part of the last three.
Yep.
And part of the discussion when you first came was the use of the inner ring road. If there was some way to tie that to your events.
We haven't, you know what, we haven't, and I remember that first conversation, and we thought, we've got one here. But we haven't explored that yet. We just haven't had, I think what our biggest, we're still trying to establish the event here and grow it here for those numbers of the riders that are interested in that. It's the touring club. It's different than the city club. But that's certainly something, and I know that Michael and I and Charles, remember Charles World, mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when we met. We said, geez, I wonder if that ring road discussion's going to, which is valid and valuable, but I think we could, you know, I'd like to, maybe for the next year's the 25th anniversary, and I think maybe that's an option to see how we develop this year, what the numbers are like, what the engagement's like, and maybe offer that as a special 25th anniversary component to it. Right. You know, maybe it could happen the day before on a Saturday or something. I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see what that looks like too. Sure. So, but thank you for that. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Councillor Barnhart.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you very much. Good to see you here again, and I'm really excited.
Good to see you.
I've been able to attend a couple of them, and they've been lots of fun. My question, I think, is to the administration. Do we require a motion to get support, or has this basically already been approved? So,
Mr. Hills.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. It has been approved in the past, and is a line item in our grants and funds in the budget.
Councillor Van Newkirk.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Question to administration. Maybe what was the support in the past?
Mr. Hiltz.
Thank you, Your Worship. We provide facilities, staffing, and advertising.
Are there any further questions of council for the presenter? No. Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm looking very forward to this event again this year, and I will be here, yeah. I'm not sure I'll be, I don't know. Have you seen me in one of those? All right, this time I'd like to take 5, and then we'll continue on with the rest of the meeting.
through you and to members of council and the public. In accordance to the procedural bylaw 884-17, it states that once a notice of motion is made, it will be placed on the next regular council agenda meeting. The elected official who made the notice of motion is present, and the vote whether or not it will proceed. On the March 27th, 2018 council meeting, Mayor John Stewart made the following notice motion: that council direct administration to provide council with a review of the town's child care program, including the following options. A, financial impacts and benefits of the town on operating a more comprehensive child care program, i.e. more seats and space. B, financial and social impacts of the town on not operating its child care program, i.e. impacts of quality child care in Beaumont. C, financial and philosophical impacts of the town on providing support private licensed child care programs, including day homes, opposed to operating its child care program. D, impacts to private licensed child care business with the town operating or not operating its child care program. E, what does a cost recovery child care model look like if the town maintains the status quo? The work to be carried out in 3 phases. Phase 1, information gathering for council so that council has the facts of information to be made an informed decision on how to move or not forward or not. 2, based on council recommendations on 1 or 2 of the options as described above, council to direct administration to seek community input and bring back a report on findings and decisions for consideration. And 3, report back to council on findings for the decision and action as required. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Winter. As it's my motion, I'll speak to it. The intention of this motion was it started out in during budget talks when we got talking about the costs of the child care program and the subsidies involved, and further discussions at committee of the whole meetings and things like that. So I really tried, it really seemed like council wanted to have a discussion surrounding the child care. So that was the purpose of the motion. The purpose of tonight is not to decide whether or not and get into a detailed discussion about any of the 5 options. The purpose of the motion tonight is to simply decide if council wishes to have this discussion and to direct administration to move forward and facilitate that for us. So at this point, I will ask if there are any questions of council. Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you very much. It's a very comprehensive motion, and I guess that's what's leading me to the question of maybe to the administration, what would be the
Sorry.
On. Do I have to repeat all of that? Because I can't remember what I said. Thank you very much. But it strikes me that this is going to take some time, but I know council is quite anxious to get the answers to these questions. So resources and time, maybe the administration could talk to in terms of how long it will take, when you might be back to council with phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, some idea?
Mr. Hiltz?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship and members of council. I think we'd be looking at probably about a 3-month review for phase 1. We'd use a third-party consultant to information gather, and then phase 2, when we bring back that for council for discussion, the findings, then based on the direction of that, will dictate the length of time the public consultation would take on those motions, and then after that was done, then phase 3 could be multiple months. This is not going to be a 2 or 3 month process. This will probably take several months from start to finish.
Redirect.
If I would, Your Worship, just to clarify then, if I do the math on this with summer and everything else that's coming in there, we might be able to have phase 3 by the end of the year?
You know, to members of council, through Your Worship, that could be a goal. I'm not going to say that we would be fully implemented by the end of the year. However, I'm quite confident that we could probably have phase 1 in the summertime.
Thank you.
Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Your Worship. Maybe first, just let me start off by saying that this issue has a lot of emotion to it. The majority of residents I've engaged over the last little while have been very respectful, putting their points across on both sides of this. However, there have been a couple of unfortunate comments, and so I'd like to state that, I'm really appreciative for the childcare providers in our community, whether it's a town facility, whether it's the private ones, day homes, and that sort of thing. So thank you for all the work that you all do to help grow our kids in our community. I thought it was important to state that off the hop. Thank you for bringing the motion forward. It is an important discussion for us to have. I got quite a few questions here, so whenever you see fit, you just punt me off, and then I'll come back around and give everyone else a turn. So, the first question to administration: what information have we collected on this before? And I guess more importantly, it seems to be that this review has come about quite a few times. So you'd indicated, Mr. Hiltz, that we're going to be using a consultant to gather this. I'd hope that we'd look to use, obviously data is going to be outdated, but hope to use some of the information to be part of that, to not, I guess, go over any new information that we've already collected. So would that be a consideration?
Mr. Hiltz.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Yes, the last time this review had taken place was in 2012, and so that report and data would be available to the consultant, but they would have to look at the programs and everything based on current costs, current enrollments across the board. A lot has happened in the last 3 years in terms of day home numbers in the community, everything else. So it would be a comprehensive review on those 5 items.
Thank you, and I'm going to keep going until you punt me. So, with so a lot of feedback I've heard, or questions, I should say, regarding the what this review actually includes. Now, we did get an email from today that explained it, but could you just confirm that this review includes the early learning child care centre as well as the school age site, please?
Mr. Hiltz.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Yes, it would include both our early learning and our SAS programmers, the school age site program.
Still going?
Yeah, keep going.
Some more feedback I've heard is regarding...
I'm just going to leave Mr. Hiltz's mic on.
Yeah, the subsidy and potentially the need to look at whether we provide it for lower income families as opposed to a subsidy across the board for those families. Would that be something that would be considered as part of this review? I can't quite see it within any of those options, how that would potentially fit within there.
Yes. Through Your Worship and to Council, under option E, what does the cost recovery model look like? Those would be considerations of delivering it from an 80% to 90% to 100%, but we'd also have to look at the economic impacts of inclusion programs for those that fall below certain poverty lines.
Okay, thank you.
How many more you got?
3.
Okay, keep going.
I had a really interesting discussion about space and the facility there, and obviously, it's a good facility, but a lot of people are looking around, and maybe the town shouldn't be involved in providing funding for directly to subsidise, but maybe more look at funding and building space for these daycare centres. Right now, obviously, there's private developers who provide that space, and private daycares are looking to go into that. But is potential, and the example that was given out was we're looking at $29 million for Aquafit Phase 2. Is there a potential, and not necessarily at that particular location, but we're willing to invest that type of money in that? Is there an option for us to maybe look at investing into building space and then potentially let the private daycare rent off that at maybe a bit more reasonable price, that they could potentially create more daycare providers in here and hopefully get some of our kids off waiting lists?
Your Worship, and to members of council, yes, those will be considered as part of the options there under B, C, and E. B, C, and D. We're looking at not operating, but however that operating would be look at how does that impact quality childcare in the community, and then how does that impact private operators, and how do we get private operators into the community to replace those seats and those spaces? It could be a private operator coming in. It could be maintaining the status quo. All of those things would have to be reviewed under those five options and would be considerations of them.
Okay. The comment here about there are several other municipalities that offer, whether some municipalities offer the subsidy, but other municipalities that look at providing space and that sort of thing. So part of this review, going along with our collaborative approach here, we'll be looking to other municipalities to learn from them and see where we're at as part of this review.
Yes.
Okay, and then my final is more of a comment. And I personally haven't been to the daycare. I think it would be important as part of this for council to, or maybe just myself, and so he wants to come down, but to get a tour of the facility, I'd be really interested in it. So if we could organise that, just to kind of see the different theme rooms. I was impressed with just listening to some of the people talk about it. So I think that would be, if we could organise that at some point, I would appreciate that. So thank you, and that's all I have. I appreciate you giving me some time here.
No worries. This is an important issue. We'll take whatever time we need. Are there any further questions of council? Okay. Hearing none, I guess we'll call the vote. Hang on. All right, call the vote. That carries unanimously. All right, moving along to item 7B, notice of motion, committees of council review. Ms. Winter. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Thank you, Your Worship, through you and to members of the public. In accordance to the procedural bylaw 884-17, states that a notice of motion is made. It will be placed on the next regular council meeting agenda, and the elected official who made the notice of motion is present and vote whether or not the matter will proceed. At the March 27, 2018 council meeting, Mayor John Stewart made the following notice of motion: that council directs administration to review the committees of council, including terms of reference, committee composition, appropriate resource allocation, strategic alignment, and duplication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As is my motion, I'll speak to it. This is straightforward, simple. I'm looking for a chance for this council to have a quick review. I mean, we all got elected in October, and it's really healthy, and we're affecting change, and I think it's time to have a really good look at our committee structure. And I know there was some ideas from council about adding to this list and taking away. So I think it's just a good opportunity for us to continue on the path of change and make sure that our committees are doing what we want them to do and moving us forward into the future. So I would ask for council support on this motion tonight. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Barnhart.
First again. Thank you, Your Worship. I have just a couple of questions, and the first one I'll direct to the administration, if I may, Your Worship, that I have a recollection that we started some of this work maybe a year or two ago, and I don't know that it was ever totally completed. There's different people. All of you are different over there than when that work started. So I'm wondering, is there any history on these reviews that anyone has found yet? It's just me remembering something.
CEO Schwartz.
We've typically got some pretty good records, so if there is past information, we'll definitely look at it.
I'll look at my records as well. Maybe I'm mixing things up, but I'm pretty sure that I think it's 2 legislative coordinators ago. We had tasked this, and not much was changed. Some of the terms of reference were tightened up, but actually, Councillor Hendricks might remember as well. My second question, if I may,
right under the bus.
Okay, has to do with one of the committees on the list, and that is the Beaumont Community Centre Advisory Committee, and currently that committee is reviewing its terms of reference internally to itself, and of course Mr. Hiltz was at the meeting, we talked about that. So I'm wondering if when there are committees that are also looking at their terms of reference, can we do it together rather than having one review here and one review there, then trying to make them work together. So I don't know your plans, if this passes, whether you could consider that.
Well, speaking as the motioner, I'm not a big fan of duplication of work, so I would sort of expect that we wouldn't. Mr. Hiltz.
Yeah, thank you, Worship, and to Councillor Barnhart. Is the CCBC Advisory Committee is a little bit of an odd duck in the whole process, is that it has kind of its own separate terms of reference for moving forward, and they are looking right now, and a presentation will come forward to a future council meeting where they're going to be looking at, do they become much more involved or less involved, or however they were going to be moving forward in things. When the work that was done a couple of years ago was doing a little bit more of alignment with a lot of the committees and putting them under more or less similar terms of reference. So I don't think that work was ever quite completed. You started a couple of years ago, but we will be able to pull out some of those committees that were put under the more of the general terms of reference.
I'm not sure if I was clear in my question. So the review of the terms of reference that's going on now could be done together.
I think that, as I said, Councillor Barnhart, and through your worship, is that what's happening with the CCBC Advisory Committee would almost be something that almost happens a little bit outside of this committee in a sense, in this review, because it's kind of a standalone terms of reference for the operation of that facility.
I think we're going to do it together somehow. But and if I could, I going for my 3 because Sam had 6. This one is about the Ag Society, and I don't know if other councillors were going to raise it or not, but it's a society, so why would that be under a committee review? I know we appoint someone, but I'm wondering why we would be reviewing their terms of reference.
Well, through your worship, is that I don't know if it's going to be, not all committees will have terms of reference reviews and things. There are societies and stuff, but it's going to be applicable to how applicable is this to our strategic plan? How is it for workload? I don't have the report open in front. Oh, there it is. It's basically looking at committee composition, representation, resource allocation, strategic alignment, and duplication. So all those committees are going to be looked at. So would we continue supporting that with a staff person or not, or resources for some of those committees? So it's going to be looking at it comprehensively.
And not just in terms of reference. Councillor Hendricks.
Worship, interesting to see that the budget committee has been removed, and I think it's important that it is. No, anyway.
No. You're still sitting in a room with us all weekend.
And all concerned. There's over time, there's been a lot of committees that have disappeared. And, we don't add, we keep subtracting. And I'm just wondering if, just as a Hail Mary pass on this, that we also just throw out what used to be committees that this council used to enjoy participation in, things like the Ice Users Committee, the Recreation Committee, which had all the user groups coming together, once every 6 months to talk to councillors or whatever about their wants and needs. There was a Facilities Committee, where to hear about issues and complaints about whatever. And not that these are administration matters; these are just policy, kind of political issues that boards wanted to come to us with and have. And not that we're meeting every month, but it was every 6 months. All of that has just gone the way. We used to have the Child Care Advisory Committee. We used to have all these things that were well connected to us, which are just gone. And now we've got this short list, and it's going to get smaller yet. No doubt. So.
Well, yeah. Part of the intention is as we go through this discussion. Part of my intention is to do exactly what you just said. Let's see if there's other committees that we should be sitting on, committees that we need to resurrect. Looking at our strategic plan that we went through tonight, what do we need to do to move us forward? And so that's sort of the intent. So it's as Mr. Hiltz has stated, this is going to be a comprehensive look at what we do and what we should be doing and how we should be doing it.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
So, Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Council. I just want to confirm with Councillor Hendricks' comment that the regional board and committees, the council council only sits on, i.e. budget, committee of the whole, are not included in this review. Thank you.
Cool. Councillor Danlock.
Thank you, Your Worship. Oh, it's on. Thank you. Actually, my question was answered.
Yes, I've been struggling.
Sorry?
Yes, I've been struggling. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, this one, I can't see the light here. So, Councillor Hendricks and yourself mentioned my comment a moment ago is that part of this whole idea, I think, is to value the councillors' time. We are all getting very active in our roles, and we want to make sure, from my perspective, that the committees we're serving on are actually being very functional, and that we, our members, are contributing to that committee, not simply being there just to be there, for lack of a better way of putting it. I'm not saying we're doing that now, but I do think we all are getting very busy in our time, and I think we need to make sure we're allocating our time to committees that really represent our council, and we're getting good value from it, not just a PR perspective. That PR has its value, but we're all stretched for time with our work lives and our community time. So I do hope that we may have the administration reach out to councillors and say, you're serving on these committees, how do you feel about them? That may be outside the bounds of the review. If it's not, I'd be happy to offer some feedback on my limited 6 months on the committees I'm serving on. Thank you.
Councillor Monkhouse-Swain.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just further to what Councillor Hendricks said regarding, we don't just want to be taking these away. Now, me, I'm not a stickler for rules, but if I read this properly, council directs administration to review the committees of council. So, to me, if you're just following the letter of the law, that means that you can only look at the committees of council. Do we need to make a friendly amendment to say and review other potential committees? Does that have to happen, or have you got the leeway to do that?
Ms. Winter, if we
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Councillor Monkhouse-Swain. It's the Mayor Stewart's motion and notice of motion, and he can take any friendly amendments that he wishes.
Yeah, I'm prepared to allow that friendly amendment if it makes council more comfortable. So can you repeat that for Ms. Winter?
Well, I'm looking over at my colleague over here. He's usually good at the friendly ones. The council direct administration to review the current and former past. Does it add the word in past? Or? That gives enough wiggle room to figure it out.
Current and past and opportunities for future committees? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. See, I don't wordsmith up here.
Thank you. Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Worship. And I don't want to get into wordsmithing either. I'm just not sure that we're talking about the same thing, because some of us are talking about time and council's appointments, and this motion talks about reviewing the terms of reference of those committees, and it's kind of the same, but it's not. And I notice one is missing. Leduc Foundation isn't on here, and I don't know if that means there's other ones that are missing. There's probably a reason for that, and then we'll hear.
Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Councillor Barnhart. Again, that's part of the regional ones, and we're not looking into those regional ones. So any of the partnerships that we have with Leduc Foundation, Regional Leduc Foundation, any of the County of Leduc, or any of the joint partnerships, or any of those things are not ones that we'll be opening up and looking at.
So Aquafit Phase 2 is not a county one? I'm just a little confused by what's on the list and what's not. So if it's about our time on there, that's one angle. If it's about the terms of reference of those, that's another. So I don't know. Again, maybe we need them to come back with some clarity on that.
Well, the clarity is what I'm trying to get to today is a very comprehensive review, and we may do terms of reference at all. We may not do all of them. Like, I expect several committee of the whole meetings as we go through this. And we discuss what we're going to do with each of these committees, or maybe I'm thinking wrong and the administration can correct me. But this is not going to be a quick and easy process, and it's meant to be collaborative and discussions to happen. CAO sorts.
From the direction that I'm hearing the discussion and the notice of motion up there, one way that it could play out is we bring those terms of reference back to committee of a whole. Maybe we don't do them all at once, we bring several at a time, and examine is there a governance function, is it strategically aligned, is there duplication with another committee, and have those discussions. Perhaps we could come with a recommendation or not, and we develop that recommendation with council. So that's the direction that we're hearing.
That's where I'm trying to go. Councillor Barr, you You're done? Councillor McGough-Swain.
So I agree wholeheartedly with that, but I just want to make sure that there's room for us to add, potentially if we need to, recreation committee, that sort of thing, as part of that review process. So that was the only reason for the friendliest of friendly amendments.
The friendliest of friendly. The intention, my intention is to add if we need to.
Thank you.
Want to. All right, any further discussion on the motion? All right. Call the vote. That carries unanimously. All right, which brings us to item 7C. Cole Secondary Beaumont High School requests grant funding. Mr. Harris.
Through your worship, to council and the public. Before you is a recommendation that council refer the grant funding request from Ecole Secondary Beaumont Composite High School, Edinburgh Entourage 2K18 to Council Policy R15 Grants, Donations and Funding Policy. So back in March, a group from the school came and made a request for funding, and it was referred back to administration. Administration reviewed the request in conjunction with Council's Policy R15 Grant Donations Funding Policy, Administrative Policy, which upon that review, the group is eligible for a $600 grant under the administrative grants based on number 2 groups or teams with a majority of members residing within the Beaumont Regional Recreation Area that are participating in provincial, national, or international significance are eligible to apply for funding assistance for an amount not to exceed $600. The motion, so the recommendation is that the group be provided $600.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. Is there a member of council prepared to make the motion? Councillor Hendricks.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Hendricks. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship, and to you, Mr. Harris. This policy has been around since 2007, correct?
That's correct. Well, longer than that, but it was amended in 2007.
Amended. And we've recently had other requests, but I don't remember this policy being used. So why is this policy recommended sometimes and not other times?
Well, in regards to the reason for it is based on council. Generally speaking, what happens is a group will go to the Recreation Department and ask for grant funding. They would be advised that they either qualify or they don't qualify under the administrative policy. And if they're not comfortable with the amount or they want to get additional money, they would come to council and request funding from council. And that is the reason for the $13,000 that council has for these donations that you have in your budget. You can look at each of them individually and add, increase the amount or not. But within the administrative policy within recreation, these are the guidelines we follow. Generally, they come to you after they've been either turned down or they don't like the amount that they're getting.
If I may, has this group gone to the administration already and been told how much they would qualify for, and they've come to council asking for more?
Mr. Hills.
Thank you, Worship, members of council. The group came forward to council. They have been told that it's been referred back to this policy. At the last council meeting, the grant request was referred back to the administration for more information. This policy then would come into effect. At some council meetings, council goes directly into making a recommendation that the funding is granted without it coming back to administration. So sometimes that happens, and sometimes we're also, the other thing that also happens too, depending on the time of the year, we've gone through the money. Like we have no money left, so they come to council.
My last, if I may, is the $600 in the range of what they are requesting, or do we even know?
At this time, they just requested money. They didn't put a number on the table.
Because I did ask that at the council meeting, and it wasn't. Thank you.
Councillor Danlock, sorry.
I think actually, gentleman. Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Harris, this amount of $600, is that from the policy change in 2007? There's been no inflationary adjustments, I guess, since that time. So this is a 10-year-old maximum based on the policy. Is that a fair interpretation?
That's correct.
Okay. And how much budget left do we have unspent at this point from that?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hiltz?
Yes, we're about 50% through the 13,000 right now.
Ooh. Councillor Van Nieuwerk.
Hello, through your worship, to the presenter. When it comes to the asks for dollars of council and groups come in, similar to what Councillor Barnhart was saying, we've referred to this policy here. More general question around a policy that would guide the rest of the asks that we have. Would you be able to refresh me on if we have a policy that covers other groups that come in and chat with us, or if that's under development, or where we're at with that?
Through your worship, to Councillor
Van
Nieuwkerk. There we go. Got it right. I'll just say Steve. Yes, we're in the process of developing a new policy to address all groups coming towards to council for donations.
Thank you.
Councillor McGosswain.
I think a bit of a broken record on this topic, so I won't go down that road, but I'm certainly looking forward to that policy coming forward. I think I voted against the last one, and I'll be voting against this one, just because I don't believe I struggle with the fact that it seems to be a first in, first serve, and you know, we're in April and we're 50% the way through, and there could be something coming up down the road that may need it more. So I'm waiting before I vote to provide any town dollars until we get that policy. So I will be voting against that. I think it's an incredible group and an incredible opportunity for them, and I'll certainly be helping out and looking forward to going and checking out their production when they put it on here in town. But I think that's more of a personal thing than something that the town should be providing funding for. So I will be voting against this request.
Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, so Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'd like to follow up on Councillor Danlock's mention of the inflation, and I'm wondering if there could be some addition to the motion which says $600 plus inflation. Is there any way of doing that?
I'd be more comfortable if you would just name an amount that you would like to give them and let council discuss it.
Well, I like Councillor McGough-Swain, I'd like to follow our policies. But I'm wondering if we can adjust that policy.
I'd rather not adjust policy on the fly.
Well, the policies could be better, but it's a policy, at least that directs us to provide support to groups that are going on an international event.
Well, I think Mr. Hiltz might have a comment for us on this topic.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. As we will also be bringing forward this policy when we bring back when we bring forward the other policy for review. So we have those opportunities to make those comments, because administration also has questions and concerns with the policy R15 and how it's being used right now. So this will be open for that at that same time, and that will probably take place in May.
If that's the way you wish to go with it. No, we'll just ask him for a friendly amendment. Councillor Hendricks.
Your Worship, if you'd like to make it friendly, $600 US.
$600, yeah.
That should cover it.
All right, we have a friendly amendment to the equivalent of 600 US. Yes, no?
Yeah, as you wish.
All right. Councillor Van Nieuwerk, it's your motion.
So I'll rely on Mr. Harris to work out the math on the inflationary rate at about 3% per year since this policy was in place. So I don't think we've had anything beyond that since I've been here. So
I'm scared. Councillor Van Nieuwerk.
Yeah, the upcoming policy that's been worked on is important for me, and that's why I asked that question. Before I was elected, I was often critical of a group that could come, sit forward, ask money, and get money, and you know, that the first to the trough mentality. And I'd like to see the system where there's a pot, and that you apply for your piece of the pot, and there's guidelines, and I think that's what this policy we're working on brings forward. So I will also wait for that policy to approve any asks for funding.
Thank you very much, Councillor Van Nieuwkerk. Getting back to Councillor Hendricks, I'd be a little more comfortable if we just added $200 to it rather than some complicated math. Can we amend the amount to 800? Thank you.
Yes.
Rather than try to craft policy on the fly. All right, any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. Carries at 4-2. Thank you very much. All right, item 7D, Beaumont Community Center Advisory Committee appointment. Ms. Winter. I can't tell.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to members of council and the public. According to the Legislative Authority, through the Municipal Government Act, Sections 145, 146, and Council Policy 7R1, there is currently one public member vacancy on the Beaumont Community Center Advisory Committee. The vacancy was advertised for several weeks in the local newspaper. The Beaumont Community Center Advisory Terms of Reference states that the members from the public shall be appointed for staggering terms of 1 to 2 years and 3 years, and includes 3-year members who reside in Beaumont that shall be appointed by Beaumont Council. The screening committee, comprised of the mayor and committee chair, have recommended the following appointment: Brad Hophoff. Mr. Hophoff has been a Beaumont resident for the past 5 years. He is one of the founding members of the Beaumont Chamber of Commerce and brings a diverse background in strategic planning, budgeting, business planning, and marketing. Mr. Hophoff has led several successful initiatives in his career and looks forward to bringing these skills to Beaumont, the Beaumont Community Center Advisory Committee. At this time, administration brings forward the appointment of the Brad Hophoff to the Beaumont Community Advisory Committee to take effect immediately and expire on December 31st, 2018. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Winter. Can I get a mover of the motion? Councillor, I'll let Danik do it, although you beat him by like a couple seconds.
Aw, is he there? That's fine with me.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
Just one question on the timeline. Can you speak to, through your worship, to administration, are you able to speak to the end of the year timeline, I guess? Was it December 31st, 2018? Was just said for the timeline?
Ms. Winter?
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Councillor Van Nieuwkerk. Yes, December 31st is when all of our committees that we have, typically I'd be bringing them to council in the September, October for bringing those forward for any of these ones that are about to expire.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Oops, too far. Call the vote. And that's carried unanimously. Agenda item 8A, bylaw 903-18, subdivision authority, second and third reading. Ms. Raymond and Ms. Kwasny, please.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. The purpose of this memo is to present council with second and third reading. A public hearing was held earlier in this evening for bylaw 903-18 subdivision authority bylaw. Administration recommends that Council give second and third reading to repeal and replace Municipal Planning Commission Bylaw 442-95 with Bylaw 903-18 Subdivision Authority Bylaw as attached in Attachment 1. Administration is supportive of this change to reflect current titles, departments, and duties, as well as authorize administration to exercise subdivision powers and duties on behalf of the municipality. Adjusting the subdivision authority to administration will result in greater efficiency in approving subdivisions and speed up subdivisions decisions within the town of Beaumont. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion for second reading? Councillor Daniluk.
So move, Your Worship. Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Daniluk.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Any discussion on the motion? All right. Call the vote. Carry unanimously. Can I get a motion for third reading? Councillor Van Newkirk. Any discussion on the motion? All right, call the vote. That also carries unanimously. Oh, that was easy. All right, we're getting down there. Item 9, Councillor Committee reports. We've seen a written report from Councillor Barnhart. Are there any further Councillor statements this evening? Councillor Barnhart.
Sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. But I do have one add-on, and as of the library board meeting that was held last night, Councillor Stout and I were there. There is a request that we'd like Council to add to a future agenda, either in May or in June, from a presentation by Kevin Dodd, who's the Executive Director of the Yellowhead Regional Library. And we think it's information that councillors would benefit from having, to know how the libraries are run on a regional level. So I wonder if we could put that in our council agenda for the future months, May or June, when it's the next opportune time. Maybe the administration could work directly with the library manager to do that.
Yeah, maybe we'll just get you to coordinate with Ms. Winter whether we need a notice of motion or if the library can bring it to us. Figure out how to get that on the agenda.
To have someone make a presentation. I don't know what the process is.
Or
we'll just coordinate the time. Okay.
Thank you.
If that's okay. Thank you.
Any further councillors' statements? All right. Update from the CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of Council. First order of business is I would like to introduce Shaima Nuradin. She is our new Executive and Legislative Assistant. She'll be interacting your direct, if you need any help administratively, please contact Shaima. We stole her from planning, and thank you, Eleanor. Now she's got to find somebody because she's pretty top-notch. In our community, a couple things are going to go on by the end of this week. We believe Confortis has contacted us. I've been talking about this for the last several months, moving different times, and that's to complete the LED light conversions. So they contacted us yesterday and said that they've been able to finish a previous job quicker, so they were hoping to be started by the end of this week, early next week. They conduct their own public information, but we're going to do some joint information blitzes as well. So we'll get it out to the residents, and that is bringing our current incandescent streetlights up to the LED standard. We've been working with them for the last several weeks on trying to identify areas that may become dark because of it, because the lights shoot straight down. So we've got that. We've been working with infrastructure, and they have a plan in place for that as well. Another change you'll see in the town, maybe by tomorrow, there's been a local resident who is directly affected or knows a family who's directly affected by the tragedy in Humboldt. And in accordance with our folks, our infrastructure, and with Fortis again, who has been extremely helpful, you're going to see a series of ribbons on all the light standards down the length of 50th Street in the colors of the Humboldt Broncos. So they're well organized. We'll be maintaining them. They'll be up for a period of time, and then they will be responsible for removing them. It's just being done with top-notch class. So hopefully those are in place by tomorrow. Other news for the town, and you'll see an announcement here shortly, is we have done some restructuring in our economic development, the way we deliver that service, including we've hired a director of economic development who will come to us currently in Vancouver. He'll be beginning April 23rd, but we've also done some restructuring from within infrastructure and integrated growth so that we will free up we'll have the ability at any point in time to have upwards of 4 people move in this council objective. And it's, as we talked about in the strategic plan earlier, it's huge. And we believe we're about to help launch where we believe council needs to go. So I'm really excited about that. More information to follow. Good suggestion was made earlier today, and we're going to look at it tomorrow morning. It should be a fairly simple fix, is a system to post notices of motion. Right now, we don't have that until they come out in the minutes within about 2 weeks. So we're going to look tomorrow morning at a way to just have a tab on our website. I'm not sure where. That's where the Shalanes and the Shivas come in, and so we'll be able to get them out to the public tomorrow, so that then when there's questions and discussion, like the early childhood one, which was quite complicated, at least people will be able to see the wording of it. So that's a good suggestion that council made tonight. The last item I'm going to punt over to my colleague because she can explain it much better than I do, and I always get myself into trouble when I try to. So, Ms. Mohammed, if you could talk about the survey and the urban strategy from the U of A. Oh. We did talk about this earlier.
Ms. Mohammed.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have a partnership with the University of Alberta with their planning students, and they do projects for us. We didn't have them do one last year. It was the year before, where they did a parking study. This year, we've partnered with them for an urban agricultural strategy. So they just had a survey that went out, which had a fairly good response as far as I understand it. And we'll actually be coming with an update. I believe it was April 24th. Yeah, to the council meeting. Will students be joining us? Yeah, the students are coming April 24th to provide an update on the strategy. Thank you.
Cool. CEO, is that it? Thank you. Are there any questions of council for the CAO tonight? None. All right. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Councillor Danlock.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm very pleased to make the following notice of motion in tonight's meeting. I move that Council directs administration to carry out the process outlined in the Municipal Government Act, Division 3, Change of Status, Section 91 to 97, and make a request to the Minister of Municipal Affairs to consider that the Town of Beaumont be permitted to change the status to the City of Beaumont. I further move that Council request administration to bring forward a request for decision regarding an application to the Minister of Municipal Affairs regarding a status change from Town of Beaumont to the City of Beaumont at the May 8th, 2018 regular council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll accept that for information tonight. Can I get a motion to go in camera this evening? Councillor Danlock.
So move, Your Honor.
All right. Let's 5-minute break. Oh, yeah.